All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our next installment of Community Conversations. We're here with some members of the admin team, and we wanted to have a conversation and share with you some information about reopening schools safely this year and some questions we've heard and things we would like to share with you as plans are coming together. I'm here at home, so I'm gonna take my mask off, I think, but we always like to model good practice. So there we go.
All separate locations with doors shut, so we're safe.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, we'll get this conversation rolling with Brenda. And Brenda, we've had some questions as we've released our plans to our community, faculty and families and staff. And we've had some questions about where we're gathering our information, what sources we're using as we've made our plans. So I was wondering if you could speak to that a little bit.
Absolutely. Hi, everybody. First of all, welcome to my office. This is the first time I've had an office with a door in a couple of years, so I want to point out that it's really exciting. I'm in the Garden House right now, and we have been communicating quite a bit via email and some phone calls and texts as well, and I've really appreciated each and every one of those individual opportunities to communicate, and this is a great one too. This summer has been a full, rich learning summer. It continues, it's not over. And I want to say first that a couple people have said to me, or more than a couple, this must be overwhelming. And I want to say I have never felt overwhelmed. I've had a couple of moments of trying to see the way forward with my colleagues and others, but it is a very serious and kind of complex time. But because of this team that you're looking at, and because of so many others that we have been in contact with, it hasn't felt overwhelming to me. Some of the most important groups have been the Friends Council on Education Heads Group, which meets once a week. These are Quaker heads of school many from the Northeast, often from across the country. We also meet weekly with NCASE heads, that's North Carolina Association of Independent Schools, and also weekly with SAIS, Southern Association of Independent Schools. These people are there to help each other, to ask questions, to create resources that we share. I've never seen such generosity in those schools. It's been amazing, and there have been a lot of great ideas. One of the things we learn is that not everybody is making the same decisions. So there was a point at which it became clear that we need to take this information, synthesize it, analyze it, and make decisions that fit this community. Friends School of Wilmington in Wilmington, North Carolina. So at those moments, sometimes I pivot and talk to my colleagues across town and see what plans that they're making and what we can learn from each other. So that has been the most important thing, along with, of course, talking to the health department in the county, the CDC, and the state Health and Human Services. We talk with them. We also read a lot of their guidelines. So those are living documents. They get updated. They become more refined, and we follow them daily. So that has been the work of the summer and a really important part of what we're planning to do for Friends School of Wilmington.
Thanks, Brenda. I appreciate that. That was excellent. One of the things that we've heard from families and faculty is a question about masks. I think we're all aware that mask wearing has been a topic both in the news and in our lives as we wear them out in public and when we can't socially distance ourselves. But we've had some questions about students wearing masks, teachers wearing masks. What's that going to look like at school? How long are students going to have to wear a mask all day? It might be really hard for them to wear one all the way through the school day. So I wanted to turn this question over to Tracy to answer that. How we're going to sort of what our mask protocols will be, and how our students are going to get a chance to to be at school both in masks as well as the times they will be able to take them off and sort of take a break from them. And Tracy's been doing summer camps. We did some summer camps in person as well as virtual this year. So Tracy, would you like to field that question for us?
Sure. My computer locked up just when you were asking me the question. So question, please.
Yeah, we're just talking about masks and students wearing masks all day versus being able to, when are they going to be able to take them off and take a break from wearing them? And then maybe anything you could share from your observations from summer camps about students wearing masks.
I'm going to talk about summer camp and how we went into summer camp this year. We had the students get out of their car and wear their masks, and they met outside their classroom. And then once they went into the classroom, they were required to wear the mask. But during summer camp, a lot of it was outdoor learning. So they were 6 feet apart while they were at separate tables, and they were able to take off their masks. When they were 6 feet apart outside running around in separate areas, they also had their masks off. When they collected in groups outside, they did have their masks on. And this went all the way up from 3 years old through 7th grade. And the 3-year-olds weren't even bothered. They just acted like it was just part of their face. And from what I'm hearing, as children are wearing the mask, it's more of a face piece now that they're enjoying to wear and part of their daily outfits. So I think hopefully it's just going to be seamless as we come into class with our masks on, and when we're outside, we'll be able to wear our masks less. So look forward to seeing y'all.
Thanks, Tracy. So, I think, oh, Brenda, I see a hand up.
Probably going to see that occasionally because I just have just a lot. Some people have questions about lunch and about snack. And so I want to be clear that we, of course, will allow students to take off their masks when they're eating. We will maintain social distancing at such times, and we'll be outside to do so. In case there's something happening that won't allow us to be outside, then we'll have to have more distance inside as they eat. But we have room for that. So that is an answer to some of the questions I'm hearing from parents as well.
Oh, I see another hand from Sarah.
I have a question. Tracy, do you have any recommendations for families with what they can start doing now to help get their children more comfortable with wearing masks and seeing others in masks? Anything that you could recommend for families?
Tracy's frozen.
She's frozen the most perfect way.
Sarah, you answer your question.
Oh, I'll answer my own question. So things that families can be doing now is taking your children along with you to public places. Maybe it's to the grocery store and having them practice wearing their masks. So they are wearing their masks, and also seeing it in adults and other children wearing masks. And also what I love is helping them see masks in their own home environment. A fun way is putting masks on teddy bears or stuffed animals, and then just having mask practice at home. So let's say hey, let's try 5 minutes today, and actually having a visual timer where the little ones are wearing masks, and then just slowly, gradually just getting them more comfortable, and also individualizing their own masks and having fun with it, making their own masks, and also just making it very developmentally appropriate and guiding them into finding a mask that's going to be comfortable and work for them, and just getting them prepared for wearing masks at school for not too long, but starting off, getting comfortable doing that.
All right.
And I would just share from my own experience that it's helpful to practice with the mask and figure out that my ear loops were a little too big, and so I needed to tie them off. So just sort of an opportunity to really get some masks that fit comfortably, so you don't have to fool around with them too much. It's good for all of us, but particularly for the kids, so it just becomes the same piece of feel clothing as the shirt and the shoes and the shorts do. So my 2 cents.
Thanks, Marla. Thanks, everyone. Yeah, I think, my takeaway is that, we are going to maximize outdoor space and time as much as possible. And that's going to give us the opportunity when socially distant outside to give students a chance to remove masks. And I mean, I think the last thing I'll say about this is that there's partially the comfortability factor of wearing a new piece of clothing, if you will, but there's also this, probably not in my case, but in everyone else's case, everybody wants to see these faces so that we can connect and be together. So we are also thinking about not only the physical comfort of a mask, but also the connection that comes when we can see each other, full facial expressions. So we're tending to that aspect as well in our plans. I think that's a good thing to highlight. All right, well, moving on from masks, we're going to get a little more nitty gritty here in terms of as planning is developing and getting more granular. Marla, I was wondering if you could share some thoughts with us about, particularly about what dropping off students is going to look like this year, because it's obviously going to be a little bit different.
It is going to be a little bit different. And maybe most important, particularly to families at Piper, but really everywhere, we're going to ask you to stay in your car with your student. We're going to ask everybody to put on their mask in the car. And then we're going to be coming around and asking the parent just 3 questions. One is, have you done the home assessment? And you'll get details about that. But what we want you to consider is, has the child or anybody in your family been in close contact with someone with a confirmed case of COVID-19? Have you done a temperature check at home so that no one's running a temperature? Have you done a symptom check at home so that we're paying attention to any symptoms? So we're going to ask you, did you do the at-home assessment? And we're going to ask you, have you got anybody with any symptoms that we need to know about? And then we're going to do a quick temperature check with our handy dandy remote, no touch thermal imaging thermometer. And we're having a check mark. And so really that's our opportunity to sort of say, we're all a team here. Have you guys done your work at home to make sure folks are coming to school safe? And then as you come to school, we're making sure, okay, everybody that's coming on campus, we've asked these questions. We know everybody's doing their best to come on campus, ready to learn and feeling good. And that's the plan. And I guess I would say one other thing, having done all that with masks on, student out of the car, and then directly to class. And we're probably going to work out some, here's your route to your class so that you're going directly there.
All right.
And I can think of one other thing that I didn't put in my notes, but that is thinking about family groupings. So as we are working at arrival times, we're going to work to get siblings arriving at the same time so that we can get everybody where they need to go at once.
Yeah, thanks, Marla. I know that was something that, looking at the survey results, that we saw questions about siblings. So I think as details come out, we can talk to we'll communicate with those families particularly. But I think the bottom line is that we're not going to have staggered. If you have siblings in your car, they're going to be able to be dropped off at the same time, and we can let you know about that.
Sarah's made us a beautiful sibling spreadsheet. All color coordinated and across the grade. So we know who all those folks are.
Excellent.
Can I ask a question about temperature taking, Marla?
Yeah.
So it's going to be done in the vehicle before the child exits to go to their classroom.
Yeah.
Are we going to make some exceptions for preschool parents, for very young children to be able to come out of the car?
I sort of feel like that's a campus moment and an age group moment. I know particularly in the early days, it's hard for parents to sort of, hand off. But Tracy can speak to this a little bit too, because I do think at camp, they really were sort of helping kids out of the car and directly to class. So my expectation, my thinking about it is that we will do it at the car. If there's a reason that we need to not be doing it at the car, we can talk about that. But really what we want is knowing that you're safe to come to school, or saying, gosh, not today, you need to head on home and talk to the doctor. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Oh, David.
I was going to tag on what Tracy might have said. I was lucky enough to help her out at summer camp drop-off on the Pine Grove campus, and did some of the practice with the temperature taking and asking the questions, and it got better and better every day and more smooth. And also the temperature taking, thinking about what Sarah said about making it fun, you could also kind of make that briefly fun for a child to then and move them on in, and it worked out pretty well. We did it, and that was kind of a practice session, which gave us a glimpse in terms of what it might look like when we start school.
And that's part of those first couple of days when we're really bringing small groups in at a time. It's part of practicing that entry to school and what all that's going to feel like and be like for us and for families.
Well, Marla, you've provided the most excellent segue possible. I don't know if you did that on purpose, but that was very well done.
Always.
We want to segue now into the next question that we'll have Brenda and Sarah primarily speak to, and that is, what are the first days of school going to look like? If you've seen that we'll be back for some orientation periods on the 17th and 18th with our first official full day, or is it on the 19th? So could you tell us about what that's going to look like?
Go, Sarah. Yeah.
Me? Awesome. Thank you, Cameron. I want to say hello to everyone, and I miss you, and I hope you all are doing well, and I'm excited. As you can see, I just can't even contain my excitement. Orientation days. So those days are scheduled for Monday, August 17th and Tuesday, August 18th. And the goal for these 2 days are for students and families to see our new school and classroom environments, and for teachers to introduce new COVID-related protocols and routines. And while teachers are meeting with students, admin will be meeting with families at the same time to do the same thing, to talk about new COVID-related protocols, to talk through drop-off, to drop through pickup, to help identify where these areas will be, to think through temperature checks and health screening, and to do a practice. And so overall, just to get students and families prepared for what to expect on Wednesday. So it's not, what are we doing? So we'll have that time to really practice. And the idea is that teachers are going to split their class into 2 groups. Group 1 will be on Monday for an hour, and Group 2 will be on Tuesday for an hour. And these schedules have been created with siblings in mind. So I made sure that there's no no overlapping in times. The next step is to share these schedules and get them verified with teachers. And once that is all said and done, teachers will reach out to families individually with hours and dates and any additional information they would like to share.
And I'll speak to the middle school. Sarah's particularly talking about the lower school, which is pre-K through 5th grade. Middle school continues to work on their scheduling and their groupings with siblings in mind. So that will come out. It may look a little bit different, just given the different structure of the middle school. The other thing to note is that we are finalizing plans with teachers to begin school with half days. This is an idea that began to emerge several days ago as we realized this idea of practice and reorientation to school with groups of students is important. Also, the word stamina emerged as an important idea that, this is going to require, as it always does, frankly, for kids to build their stamina back after the summer. Now it's been building your stamina back since March. And so we want to start slowly for that reason. We also want to have sort of a soft opening because, just as with summer camp, we will learn things. We'll come back to school for a half day on Wednesday, August 19th, and we will have everyone dismissed by noon. We'll create staggered schedules. And then we'll take a breath. And we'll be in conversation, and we'll notice what we learned. We'll find out that things were easier than we expected. We'll find out that things were more challenging in some ways. We'll figure out how to address those challenges. We'll rest, we'll clean, and we'll come back the next day. We are going to do that for 8 days. We're going to do that through August 28th, I think is that Friday. We have things to figure out between now and the beginning of school. That is, what about students who cannot go home for the afternoon, whose families work or whatever? We will take that into account. We have other things that we know that we need to figure out, and we're going to be doing that with teachers. Teachers, as you may know, come back officially on August 10th. So what's always true, teachers working through the summer, even though it's a 10-month job, has been true this summer, and yet we want to give teachers enough time to make sure that they come back full speed ahead. So we will really be gathering remotely as well as in person starting August 10th. Again, conversations are occurring now as we come up with these plans so that we can confirm with teachers and make sure they're included in the planning. And they're bringing up great questions and fabulous ideas as only teachers can. So that's going on, but that half-day plan is being finalized now, and you'll be getting details about it at the same time that you're getting this recording. So I'll look for those. It's an important part of how we begin this school year.
All right, thank you. Well, Brenda, you seem to be on a roll here, so I have you up next as well for the next topic of conversation. And this is a question about substitutes. If a teacher, we've talked a lot about students and the possibility of a student needing to go home, everything that happens with that. But we also know that teachers may also fall under the same categories of needing to go home or needing to be away from school. So the question has come up about substitute teaching this year. Could you speak to that a little bit?
Sure. I can briefly say that we typically have a small group, a short list of substitute teachers that come and do work for us through the year. And they often are people who only work at Friends School of Wilmington. Sometimes it's because of a close connection with a family or whatnot. So that is our goal, so that we have substitute teachers that are really focusing on Friends School of Wilmington and maybe even divisions, keeping those cohorts small. And I'll just tag on, we really, really want to make sure we are taking care of our teachers this year. This is uppermost. And so this question is one of about 100 that we are looking at carefully as we say, we are here to support teachers. They are our heart and soul. They are our gatekeepers. And so they are putting themselves in a position that for some of them is uncomfortable. And we need to do everything that we can to make this a safe place for teachers and students. And that's what we're doing.
Excellent. Thanks, Brenda.
And
Gonna pivot. Oh, Marla, I see a hand.
I just would jump in briefly and say that in the same way that we want families to keep students home when they're not feeling well, we don't even know why you're not feeling well. You're just not feeling well. Not a good day to come to school. Teachers are folks who power through. This is not the year when we want teachers to power through. And we're really working to make sure that teachers know that admin knows that. This is not the year to power through. This is the year to say, I'm feeling like I really shouldn't be at school. Let's get a sub in.
So if you're feeling puny, stay home.
Everybody. All right, thank you. I'm going to move now to an admissions question. So that's going to take us to David Houlihan. David, we've had some questions about, are we still currently accepting applications? And, one of the things that's also related to this is the idea of on-campus tours, having people on campus while students are there, because we're obviously limiting visitors of other types. So I wondered if you could talk a little bit about admissions currently, really in the context of how that's going to affect us when we're in the school year.
Sure, Cameron. The short answer to the first part of your question is yes. We are accepting applications. As you might not be surprised, or people might not be surprised to know that applications kind of trickled in after starting in late March, but we found that they started picking up again in mid-May. And so the short answer is yes, and we are seeing applications come in and continuing to move them through in mostly the normal way, but there's some tweaks in a new environment. So yes, we are. In terms of visitors on campus, and in the summer that has meant tours, but we actually put a moratorium on tours starting in March or late March, and we resumed on-campus tours in mid-June. And we with these kind of stipulations. One, we did not have them if summer camp was occurring. The idea being visitors would not be on campus when there were students and children present. So we kept to that. And the safety protocols in place were three, essentially. Requested, required, and with all visiting parents and children to wear masks. And we practiced physical distancing during that entire time. And we made sure that a big jug of sanitizer was at the entrance to each campus when they arrived. And to a person, every visitor who came, abided by all that easily and frankly enthusiastically. So, and we will continue that for the foreseeable future in terms of not having visitors on campus.
All right. Thanks, David. Marla?
I keep jumping in, but one of the cool things that David did when we put a moratorium on campus visits was he did some virtual school tours for folks. I don't know if he's still sending those out to folks, but I know he taped sort of a virtual tour of the lower school and a virtual tour of the Pfeiffer campus too. So that was sort of a cool thing to do in the interim that may serve us well too going forward.
And we may be doing more of those.
Hey!
So thanks. And Marla, you just keep jumping in. You keep jumping in anywhere you want. All right. Ooh, this one's for me. I'm going to ask myself a question. One of the things that folks have been asking and that we've been thinking about as well is we're going to be welcoming students and teachers and staff back in person at school and tending to the safety as the primary concern there. But we all know also that our families and staff and everyone is going home at the end of a school day. So we wanted to talk briefly about some ways that families can help and the teachers at home can help, what we can be doing at home to ensure that when we come back together, that we're remaining as safe as possible. And we've been working up a document in communication that will also be coming out, putting some final tweaks on it. But basically, it's some recommendations and expectations and requests. Going back and forth on the word commitment sounds pretty official.
I think we've landed on commitment.
We're landing on commitment. That's the word right there from Brenda. So this is a commitment.
It's a very serious ask from us.
It is. And so a few things we're going to ask of families and of our families, those of us who work here when we're at home, is in public spaces, including at work, we will ask that our household commits to the following: social distancing of a minimum of 6 feet, minimizing close contact conversations to less than 10 to 15 minutes, wearing masks, monitoring for symptoms and self-quarantining if you have a chance of exposure, including after international or domestic travel, hand sanitation after contact with high-touch surfaces, and hand washing during or after public activities. So those are when we're out in the public, when we're not at school, when we're out in public, at work, elsewhere. At home, in our homes, we're committing to the following: monitoring for symptoms of COVID-19, primarily loss of taste and smell and fever, but also runny nose, coughing, vomiting, diarrhea, and shortness of breath. Continuing to practice and maintain hygiene measures like proper hand washing techniques and teaching those as needed. Reporting to the school when there's a confirmed case of coronavirus in our family or within a close contact, and disclosure and self-quarantine when a known direct contact has occurred. And we have these, again, we have this typed up and we'll be going out so you can see that in hard copy as well. You won't just have to rely on this video. And we also are working on, if you saw summer camp, those of you small groups who came to summer camp, there was a waiver for summer camp and attendance, and we're also looking at a waiver to be sent home before the school year starts as well. So those are all getting dialed in with final final edits and copies, and those will be coming home as well. All right. Got to make my checklist here. I've checked that off. And now I'm going to go back to Brenda. And this is really just a sort of a concrete question about our calendar. We've adjusted our school calendar this year in response to some thinking about keeping everyone safe. And I wondered if you could highlight some of the revisions and changes to our calendar that we've made since it was originally created.
The revision that you all received, I want to point out that we have committed to weeks of remote learning prior to winter break and after winter break. This is very specifically so that our families, our teachers, our faculty, and staff can quarantine before visiting family and after visiting family before coming back together. So we are planning on that no matter what. We recognize that we may need to toggle out for other remote learning. Someone asked, have we considered remote learning for the entire span of time between Thanksgiving and the holidays? We have considered that. We have not put that into our calendar. We obviously will be looking at numbers in terms of COVID spikes all year. And then that is an obvious time that if we were remote, then we know that we would be able to quarantine. But we'll keep looking at that. We want to stay nimble to that possibility. And that's, I guess that's the other thing, is just noticing that we are going to be as flexible as possible with the calendar based on what's happening around us. But take a look so that you know what the expectations are. We're also ending school a week before the original plan. This coincides with public schools as well as other independents in town and makes sense.
And I'm just going to jump in again and say that to my mind, the community commitment and the calendar, that example in the calendar really work together. I think what we're really asking families to do is to remember that what you do outside of school impacts our ability to have school for everybody. And so we've built our thinking about that into the calendar. And so folks can go visiting. We want to go see grandma and grandpa over Christmas, but we also recognize that may be a completely different COVID environment. We want to be able to protect grandma and grandpa from our COVID environment. We want to be able to protect our environment from grandma and grandpa's COVID environment. And that commitment for home behavior is all of us are going to our own communities. And as somebody who lives a little bit farther away, I'm going to a completely different community. And so I want to make my behavior at home keep my school behavior safe as well.
That was really well put, Marla. Thank you very, very much. All right. The last thing we want to mention here in our community conversation is how we're going to communicate with families, how we have been communicating with families, and where to ask questions if you have them. So hopefully you feel that we have been communicating with you. You've been seeing communications come home, both from Brenda, some things I've sent out in my new role as Director of Communications. So in that role, I will be overseeing the communications because it's in my title. It's what I do now. But we will communicate. Woo! Love it. It will. Our communication will come from a variety of sources, depending on who has something to share with you. I think the bottom line is that we want to keep you informed of what we're doing. Hence, videos like this, some of the emails and PDFs and documents that have gone home and will continue to come to you through the school's communications director. We also want you to know that we welcome your feedback. We welcome your questions. Teachers report back on the 10th. So right now in the interim, if you have questions, if it's a business question, you can always go directly to Marla. If it's an admissions question, you know who we are on the admin team and what we're doing. And if you have a question and you know who that would be, please feel free to reach out directly. If you don't know and you just have a general question, you're certainly welcome to email me and I can get you that answer or direct you to the person has that answer, depending on what's easiest and makes the most sense. So keep the questions coming, I think would be the key. If you feel like you need information, we are here for that. We want to give it to you. And if you don't get it to the right person at first, that's okay. We'll get it to them and we'll get you the answer from the people who know. When school is in session, one of your first points of contact at the preschool, elementary level is your classroom teacher. And then at the middle school level, it's generally your advisor, your student's advising teacher. And again, they may not be the person, but they can get it to you. They can be that first point of contact. Brenda.
And I just do want to point out that Sarah has joined us as the lower school director this year. Another applause line for sure. And has done remarkable work this summer in preparing our lower school for our next steps. So Sarah is a great point person to direct questions to for our students through 5th grade.
Thank you, Brenda. I love talking. So, so please, I love questions. Thank you.
All right. Well, I think that about wraps up our this installment of our community conversations. Thank you for taking the time to listen, and I will reiterate again from that last point. If you have any questions or thoughts to share, please reach out.
We can't wait to see you.
Can't wait to see you.
Absolutely.
We will be looking like this when we see you, but we cannot wait to see all of you.
Under this, we look like this. Happy to see you.
I've really been practicing smiling with my eyes.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Y'all take care. Thank you so much for all you do out there. Be in touch.
Love you.
Thanks, everybody. See you soon.
Bye.